Welcome back to the Broad Street Sports Podcast featuring Zachary Chapin. Today I'll be giving you my Week 3 NFL reaction from Thursday night's game to Sunday night's game last night and just talking about who I have winning again here on Monday night and what I could see happening. All right, talking about Thursday night football, the Jets and the Patriots. I talked about this game last week. I expected the Jets to win. There's no real surprise about it. In my opinion, the Jets did what they needed to do to get it done, and Aaron Rodgers looked good in his first home game with the Jets. And the Patriots, they came back down to earth. They weren't able to play as well as they did the past 2 weeks, and ultimately Rodgers played well. He was able to get it to Lazard, Wilson, and the defense played well down the stretch and throughout the game. Moving on to the 1 o'clock Sunday slate, we have Giants and Browns. The Giants, with a bit of a shocker, beating the Browns. Malik Neighbors showed again that he's probably the favorite right now for Rookie of the Year, and I totally agree with that. He's looked great, and at this point, he's saving Daniel Jones' job at this point. The way he's been able to run in and throughout defenses is actually insane. He had a 100-yard game last week and then 78 yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday against the Browns. And ultimately, their offense played great. Singletary was able to get the rushing game going, and for the offense of the Browns, it was really inconsistent. Deshaun Watson had 2 passing touchdowns, but they both were to Amari Cooper. Those were probably the only good plays he had the entire day. And other than that, the Giants pass rush finally got home. They traded for Brian Burns. He made his impact in this game. They were able to get to Deshaun Watson 5 times, force a couple turnovers, and were just able to play their style of football. And we'll see if this can continue into a very important Thursday night game against the Cowboys coming up this week. Moving on to the Eagles and Saints, I just got to say 2 words. Saquon Barkley. He is a monster. I don't care what people want to say. I know he had that 60-yard rush, but he and Dallas Goedert carried us in the second half and is the reason our offense was able to get anything going. But something that has to be talked about, this defense, to shut down the Saints, especially them scoring 91 points the past 2 weeks. I did not expect us to win this game. I thought we were going to lose by 10, 15 points. I thought the Saints were just going to continue their trend, but the defense came and showed up. The only negative about this game is Nick Sirianni. I am completely done with him. He is a idiot, whatever you want to call him. He's stupid as whatever. The play calls he makes, the decisions he makes, he looks like he's a 2-year-old out there. He's actually terrible. And I want to be able to look into the positive of this game, but I also have to look into the negatives at this point because Sirianni, terrible decision making. He left at least 6 or 9 points up on the board because he wanted to go for it on 4th down. And then he makes Jake Elliott kick a 60-yard field goal with basically no practice throughout the game. He was just sitting there, so you expect him to go out there and drill a 60-yarder? That's highly unlikely. And I just feel like they just don't know what they're doing right now on offense. The offense was very inconsistent up until the 4th quarter, until Saquon Barkley exploded for that run. And Dallas Goedert ultimately had a really good game, probably his best game of his career. He had 10 catches for 170 yards. And the defense has to be talked about. Vic Fangio adjusted very well to it and was able to get them ready to go and play really well against the Saints. Quinyon Mitchell has been a lockdown corner so far. He's been great. Slay had a couple nice plays, and then Blankenship to end the game with a nice pick. And then I just got to talk about one thing real quick before the end of the game. The Saints, whatever you want to say, they got some dirty players, especially Peyton Turner. I don't know if people saw it. There's a video of him spitting on Devontae Smith after he got hit by Chris Turner, I think. And for that hit that knocked down Smitty, if that's just a terrible, disgusting thing to do, and I hope he gets punished for it. And Jalen Carter, at the end of the game, it wasn't necessary, but I respect it. He's standing up for his teammates, and that's just the player he is. He's going to dominate you on the field and then trash talk you off of it. That's why we drafted him number 9 overall and why he could be one of the best defensive players this year. Moving on to the next game that shocked a lot of people, including me. I saw the Vikings winning. I saw the Vikings winning this game. I could see them I saw it possibly happening, but to do it in the manner they did, Sam Darnold has looked great. He's been exactly what they needed on offense. He had 4 touchdowns yesterday, only 180 yards passing, but was able to distribute to his receivers. And this is another week they did not have Jordan Addison, and it just looked like it didn't even matter. Aaron Jones has been great for them so far. Justin Jefferson, he's just built a great connection with Sam Darnold, And Brian Flores is a mastermind on defense. The way he's been coaching for them these first 3 weeks, he's looked great. He's been able to bring the potential out of these defensive players, and not having Dallas Turner yesterday still didn't matter. Jonathan Grenard, the former Texan, had a day yesterday, had 2 sacks. And then for the defense, they were able to force an interception on C.J. Stroud and ultimately just shut down this offense. And then like I said, on the offensive side of the ball, just able to move up and down the field, the Vikings were. And that's exactly why they won this game, and a very much team to look out for as the weeks go on here in the NFC. Moving on to the next game, another shocker in my opinion. Broncos destroying the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield was running for his life all day, got sacked 7 times by the Broncos pass rush. They were just able to generate and get back there. And then Bucky Irvin, he was their best player all day. He might honestly be the starter of Rachaad White at this point. Like, he's been better than him the past couple weeks, and I think if I'm the Buccaneers, I would really consider it, because you got to find some type of spark after this game. And then you got the Eagles coming up. We'll see how we play going into Tampa Bay. It should be interesting, but ultimately the Buccaneers just a no-show on offense, and the Broncos did what they needed to do on offense, and Bo Nix got his first career touchdown, which was good for him, and they were just able to sustain be able to sustain a great offense and just chew the time off the clock and do what they needed to do. But ultimately they got the win, and that's great for them getting their first win of the season. Moving on to the next game, Packers and Titans. Talk about the Malik Willis revenge game, and he just looks like he's happy playing football. He looks like he's in a great system. He's throwing the ball very good for them, and just rushing. We already knew he had the rushing ability, but he just needed to develop that passing. So far, it looks like he has, and it's gone great for them. And their defense played well. Xavier McKinney and Jair Alexander, it's tough to throw back. It's going to be impossible to throw back there, especially the way they're playing. They just look like a 1-2 punch out there. Like, if you throw it anywhere in the direction, they're picking it off. Like, I think McKinney already has 3-4 picks on the season. What an acquisition for them in the offseason. And then you know where you're going to get Alexander. He's a lockdown corner with that confidence that pretty much outbeats anyone. And for Will Levis, I don't know about him. I know early, like in my predictions, I had the Titans finish in second place. I thought there would be an improvement from Will Levis this season, but it's just been the complete opposite. He just looks like he has no idea what he's doing, making terrible decisions, and just costing his team the games every single week. So if I'm the Titans, I really got to sit down and think about, is he the guy right now? Because the decisions he's been making are really questionable and are taking the team's morale down as a whole. So, and then moving on to the next game, we got the Colts and Bears. In my opinion, this was the battle of the shit QBs. Both Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams have been terrible so far. Anthony Richardson had another bad game where he threw 2 interceptions, so that wasn't good to see. He's already got 6 interceptions on the season, so him developing as a passer so far has not been the greatest sign, so we'll have to see how they develop from there. And for Williams, he was able to get the passing going a little bit, but then had 2 interceptions. It's like, if you're going to develop, you got to show it in some type of different way. You got to keep the turnovers to a minimum and just find a way to build yourself up. I know the offensive line isn't great, but making stupid decisions ain't going to help. So, but once again, I feel like Caleb Williams is not getting talked about as much where he really should be, because he's not been making the best decisions. He finally got to Rome Odunze. Odunze had himself a game. So did Cole Kmet, DJ Moore. They all had over 70 yards receiving. But at the end of the day, the Bears, I feel like they got more out of this game than the Colts, but it's a game they should have won, in my opinion. Moving on to the final 1 o'clock game, the Steelers and Chargers. Herbert was a game-time decision in this game and then ended up getting hurt again during the game, so it'll be interesting to see how he is throughout the week, because they got a big game coming up against Kansas City next week. That could be a big game down the road, especially if the Chargers can continue to play well, even though they didn't win this game. But the Steelers, they're just playing their style of defense that they have been playing for years, and their offense is backing them up, putting up a good amount of points to win the game. Justin Fields, he's doing exactly what he needs to do, and he's showing the Bears that they should have never traded him at this point, because he's just playing manageable football. He's getting it to the guys he needs to, and he's showing that he is a good quarterback. Like, he is exactly what the Steelers need, and in my opinion, I would consider starting him the rest of the year over Russell Wilson, because at the end of the day, you want a quarterback that can help you win. You don't want to, no offense to Russell Wilson, you don't want to switch quarterbacks and just completely switch, because Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are completely two different quarterbacks. And if you switch the system, I feel like it just messes with the team morale and just ultimately changes the way the team looks week to week. And the defenses, I feel like, are able to figure out a quarterback like Russell Wilson more than Justin Fields, because Justin Fields is a dual threat quarterback. He can either run for 60 or throw a bomb for 50. So, but good win for the Steelers. They're 3-0 in the season, and they could just keep building on this. They could be a good team and a playoff team again in the AFC. Moving on to the 4 o'clock slate games, the Seahawks and Dolphins. I didn't expect much out of this game, especially now that Tua is out, and it really was, like, I didn't see much of this game. I did see the DK Metcalf big long touchdown to end the first quarter, which was a beautiful pass by Geno Smith. But the Dolphins, I don't see them doing much for the next couple of weeks. I feel like it could be a very bad road for them the next couple of weeks, because Skylar Thompson got hurt in this game. They might bring up Tyler Huntley from the practice squad, but at this point, I think they just won't be able to sustain anything for a while, and may really have to consider maybe trading for a quarterback to the deadline if they view themselves as a playoff team this year. So, and moving on to the Panthers and Raiders. Wow, the Panthers, at this point, it might be Bryce Young. He might have to ask Raising Cane's for his job back, because at this point, it's looking like he's the problem. So, I mean, Andy Dalton played well, the Red Rocket right there. He had 3 passing touchdowns on the day, one to Adam Thielen. Deontay Johnson just emerged as the Panthers' number 1 guy. They traded for him, and he finally gets involved in this offense. Maybe it's just the quarterback not getting it to him, but I mean, Andy Dalton set up with the same team that Bryce Young was and played a whole lot better. And this is a Raiders team that's coming off a week where they beat the Ravens in Baltimore down 10 points. So, very impressive win for the Panthers. They were able to do what they needed to do on offense. Chuba Hubbard had a great game. And then for the defense, forcing a couple turnovers on Gardner Minshew and just making sure they don't score. Just an ultimately good win for the Panthers, and it will be interesting to see how they build off of that, especially after Dave Canales already announced that Andy Dalton is their starter for next week. So we'll have to see where it moves from there. But ultimately, good win for the Panthers and just a good step forward. Moving on to the next game, the Rams and Niners. I saw highlights of this. This was a crazy game. The Niners were up 10 points. Jawan Jennings, I don't know what type of crack he was on, but he had over 170 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is absolutely insane. So that's crazy for him and good for him. But Ayuk was a no-show again, which at this point, if I'm the Niners fan, I'd be concerned, because you pay him all that money, and he's been terrible so far. Moving on to the Rams. The Rams not having Higbee, Kupp, Nakua, Kyro Williams was their main guy, but Stafford was able to do what he needed to do down the stretch and help them win the game. Like Kyro Williams, I saw one of his touchdowns. The front flip he did was absolutely insane. This game was full of big plays and just wow moments, and ultimately, like, the Niners were up 10 points in the fourth quarter and weren't able to get the win, and the Rams ran down the field, sustained a good offense, and won the game on a game-winning field goal. And it was crazy, the final play of the game. Like, the Rams able to win this game is huge for them, and the Niners just have so many questions because they're barely banged up, and now they're sitting at 1-2 in the season. So, but moving on to the Lions-Cardinals, I expected a whole lot more out of this game. It was actually pretty boring in my opinion. I mean, the one nice play was the hook and ladder, Amon-Ra St. Brown to Jahmyr Gibbs. That was very clean and great to see. And the Lions, they just had a great bounce-back week, sustained the run very well against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals played a good enough game. They just weren't able to sustain enough offense. They had that one drive, Marvin Harrison, that they scored quickly. But other than that, they weren't able to sustain great offense, and that's why they lost the game. So, and then moving on to this next game, Ravens-Cowboys, oh my God. The Ravens had this game in the bag. They were dominating the Cowboys. I was about to come on here and react today about the Ravens just destroying them, but the Cowboys almost came back, which if I'm a Ravens fan, I'd be concerned, because, like, even though you won the game, at like what caused it to come, like, you just let the Cowboys immediately come back. Like Lamar Jackson said in his post-game interview, he didn't want to take the foot off the gas, but I guess Harbaugh wanted to, so I don't know what's going on in that locker room. But the Ravens, let's talk about the first half of them. Derrick Henry showed why the Cowboys should have signed him, and he just he just destroyed them. He had over 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just looked like prime Derrick Henry in Dallas. And the offense for the Cowboys, except for the fourth quarter, is very concerning right now. CeeDee Lamb had that fumble in the red zone, and they just can't get the ball to him. And when they can't get the ball to him, Dak just looks like there's no one out there for him to pass the ball. He was able to get to Brandon Cooks. Ferguson had a good game. But this Cowboys offense looks very one-dimensional, and without them being able to stop the run, I think they're the worst team stopping the run in the entire league so far, and that'd be very concerning going into these next couple of weeks because you play some good running backs, and you're just going to have to figure it out because if they can't stop the run and their offense just stays one-dimensional, this could be a very bad season for the Cowboys, and it already has been. Moving on to the Sunday night game, the Chiefs and Falcons. The Falcons had plenty of opportunities to win this game. It's just they weren't able to do it at the end. At the end of the game, there was a little bit of a questionable call that wasn't called on Kyle Pitts. The guy who was covering him never turned around. I don't know. A bunch of people thought it was a pass interference call. It wasn't called, so we'll just have to move from there. But the Falcons started off very hot to begin the game. I think their first 2 drives, they went down and scored touchdowns. But then after that, it was just slow. And honestly, the second half was pretty boring. Rashee Rice had a big game for them. Travis Kelce, once again, not involved in the offense, so we'll have to see what goes from there. And the Chiefs, they were able to play well. Carson Steele played well as the running back 1. They're going to be missing Pacheco for sure, I think, though. And for the Chiefs, just able to go down into Atlanta, get a good win, and go home and now play the Chargers. And now moving on to the games that haven't happened yet today or tonight at 7:30 and 8:15, the Bills and Jaguars. I expect this game to be utter domination by the Bills. Trevor Lawrence has looked terrible so far. I say this all the time to people I talk to. Trevor Lawrence, how you pay this guy close to over $40 million when he got you 1 playoff win when you were down 20 points and he threw 4 interceptions in the second half. The first half. I know you came back from it, but a quarterback who throws 4 interceptions in a first half of a playoff game is a person you do not pay. And I feel like them making that decision is just very questionable. And their offense is just so stale. There's no excitement to it. There's no explosiveness. They have Travis Etienne. They have Brian Thomas. They have Christian Kirk. They signed Gabe Davis. Evan Ingram's out, but I think he should be back tonight. It's just they have so much personality to this offense, so much creativity. It's just they don't use it the right way. And Trevor Lawrence, it seems like whenever he's pressured, he just does not know what to do. And I just see the Bills dominating tonight, just like they did against the Dolphins, because the Bills' defense is very good. And I just don't see the Jaguars having an answer for James Cook and then Josh Allen getting the ball to guys like Shakir, Kincaid, and then maybe finally forming that connection with Keon Coleman. And then moving on to the game that I find a little bit more interesting in the Commanders and the Bengals. In my opinion, this could be the much better game. Jaden Daniels, I feel like there's got to be a point eventually where he's able to get that passing game going and at least get a couple passing touchdowns. But I feel like this is the game where Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are finally able to hook up that connection in a big way. I feel like tonight could be a big game for both of those guys. T. Higgins is back tonight, so Jamar might get a little bit more separation, might not get that much pressure put on them, and then guys like Kaseki could be good, Zach Moss, and I feel like Jaden Daniels, this could be the game for him to emerge as a better passer and maybe get a couple passing touchdowns on the board after only scoring field goals last week. But ultimately, I have the Bengals winning this game. The Bills game, I have the Bills winning about 34-17. In this Bengals game, I got the Bengals winning by the score of 27-21. I think it's going to be a close game, not too high scoring, and I think the Bengals are just going to able to solidify themselves and finally get that first win in Cincinnati. And I think both quarterbacks tonight for the Bengals and Commanders will have good games, and Jaden Daniels will finally be able to improve as a passer and get a couple passing touchdowns on the night. But other than that, that's my reactions. Expect probably a power rankings or something like that. The Phillies are coming back. The Phillies are hopefully about to clinch soon. We'll have to see how that goes. But once the playoffs get back into it, so expect a lot more baseball uploads next week, especially with Red October hopefully coming around the corner, especially hopefully a division win. But other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good night.